Okay. It has started, right, Aditi?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Mr. Halder, and good afternoon to Dr. Dabre, who is joining us from Sydney. So, on behalf of Razor, I warmly welcome each one of you to today's guest speaker session. So, I'm Samyukta Sriram, the Secretary of Razor. And let me just begin with a quick word about Razor itself. So, Razor is short for the Ramanujan Society of Research, for those who don't know. We are a student driven community built with a simple vision in mind, which is to bring together minds who are curious about research, create avenues wherein we can learn from experts, and to make the research process more approachable for all those who are interested in it. And so I would say that today's event is in line with that vision. We have invited two distinguished speakers here today who represent two ends of the research spectrum. So, on one hand, we have Dr. Raj Dabre, who is a leading full time researcher. And on the other hand, we have Mr. Deepan Halder, who is an undergraduate researcher who is already contributing to cutting edge work while still a student. So, by bringing both of them here together in this session, our hope is simple that all of you will see research not as something that is too distant or intimidating, but something that all of us can cultivate at our own respective levels. So, with that, let's get started. In fact, before starting, let me just lay out the flow for today's event. So, first, we'll be having a half an hour fireside chat with Dr. Dabre, and this will be taken up by our host, Akshita. And after that, a conversation will ensue between Mr. Halder and our other host, Siddharth. And after that, we'll be opening up the floor for a question and answer segment wherein you, the audience, can directly unmute yourself or you can post your questions in the chat directly. And finally, our Deputy Secretary Aditi will be providing a brief closing for today. So, with that, let's get started. Like I mentioned, our first speaker is Dr. Dabre. He has been a researcher at Japan's National Institute of Information and Communications Technology, an adjunct faculty at IIT Madras with AI for Bharat, and he has been a visiting assistant professor at IIT Bombay. So his work focuses on multilingual understanding and generation for low resource languages, particularly Indian and Creole languages. And what's remarkable about Dr. Dabre and the reason behind requesting his presence here today is not just the sheer breadth of his work from Indic Trans 2 to Whisper Streaming, but also his deep commitment towards making technology more accessible to languages that are often too easily overlooked. So, to guide this conversation, we will have Akshita, who will be hosting the fireside chat. So, this segment is designed to be an open, thoughtful exchange about research as a journey, a mindset, and a process. So, enough yapping. Over to you, Akshita.
Thank you, Samyukta. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be hosting this conversation with Professor Raj Dabre. You have already heard about his impressive background, so I won't repeat that. Instead, I want to highlight what makes this session special. This is a fireside chat. Instead, I'm just about accomplishments or technical details, but about the journey of research, the mindset, the challenges, the turning points, and the lessons that students like us can learn from. With that, let's dive right in. Dr. Dabre, you have moved through Mumbai University, IIT Bombay, Kyoto University in Japan, Google, NICT, and then went back to the Indian economic ecosystem with AI for Bharat. Looking back, what drew you into research and what kept you there, even when it was difficult? How did you navigate these transitions and what did they teach you about the nature of research itself?
Okay, so let me be very honest that when I started on this journey about 15 years ago, I had absolutely no interest in doing anything related to research or anything for that matter. I got into research very much by accident. And the reason was basically I had graduated from my undergraduate in St. Francis Institute of Technology in Mumbai. And what I really wanted to do is just become a teacher right away. I didn't have many big goals. I didn't want to do a master's degree in IIT or anything. I just wanted to just take it easy. But when I was teaching, one of my students told me hey, why don't you take the gate exam? You should be able to crack that exam fairly easily. Now, I had flunked JE, and because I flunked JE, I was not very sure, like, okay, am I really capable of getting into this, let alone research? Everybody's talking about research, and I thought it was for very smart people. And because I'd flunked JE, I didn't know if I was qualified for research, let alone IITs or whatever. But then but this student, he encouraged me, and I was like, you know what, as it is, I get a lot of free time during my teaching, between my teaching sessions. Let me prepare. I prepared. Somehow I managed to get a decent score. And at that point of time, when I was trying to get, yes, Priyam, you have a question? Okay, was that by accident? Okay, maybe. All right. So again, when I was applying for my to IITs to get my admit, um, I was thinking like, okay, I'll do a 2 years master's degree, get into some software engineering company after graduation, and then just coast, just have a very simple life. But then, when I was taking the interviews to get into IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, wherever I had applied, in IIT Bombay itself, there was one talk that changed my life, and that was a talk by Professor Pushpak Bhattacharya, who used to be the director of IIT Patna, and he's a professor at IIT Bombay. And he talked about languages. He talked about how he is doing research on translating from one language to another language. And at that point of time, my mind was completely blown. Now it might seem very easy, right? You use ChatGPT, you use Google Translate. In your mind, you might be like, oh, okay, this is very trivial now. But I was the guy who hated languages the most. And the reason why I hated languages is because I hated to study for languages. I was good at English. I was very bad at Marathi. I was very bad at Hindi because I felt like I was being forced to learn languages. And I hated that. I wanted to learn at my own pace. And I have traumatic memories of languages only. So the moment Professor Pushpak Bhattacharya got onto stage and started talking about, oh, we are going to build AI to do translation and so on, my mind was like, yes, I hate languages. So I want to work on technology that is going to make sure that people don't have to learn languages anymore. And that was the thing that clicked for me, and I was like, okay, this is what I can do. And I'm going to spare you some of the spicy details on how I went through the interviews and so on. But long story short, I got in, and then I started on with morphological analysis, very fundamental analysis of languages, like trying to take a word, break it down into smaller parts, trying to understand what are the gender, what is the tense, and so on of these specific words. This was like 14 years ago or 13 years ago. This is rule based stuff. None of the statistical stuff that you hear of was available at that point of time. Then this evolved into machine translation after 1 year, and this is where statistical machine translation was a thing. Now you guys use deep learning, right? None of that deep learning stuff was there. It was all rule based, it was all statistical, and we had no GPUs, only CPUs, and that to like maybe 5 6 CPUs, not more than that. We didn't have anything of that. But that kind of allowed me to get a taste of what this natural language processing world is. Machine learning stuff I did here and there, but I wouldn't call myself an expert at that point of time, and I don't think I'm an expert now either. I just know some things better than other people. Um, and once I got started, right, it's a roller coaster ride. It just keeps on going faster and faster. Sometimes things are slow, but then the other times things are really, 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 they just keep on accelerating. Then I started my PhD. That's when the neural network era started coming in. And during the neural network era, it was like I had to relearn everything because I went into my PhD thinking, oh, I'm only going to work on statistical machine translation. And suddenly neural networks comes in, statistical machine translation is pretty much done meaningless. It's meaningless now. Everybody is like, oh, you cannot do your PhD in statistical machine translation anymore. And I was like, okay, I have to do everything from scratch. I had planned for a year to do my I had planned my PhD of 3 years. It took me a year to plan it all out. But then suddenly, in one single stroke, my entire PhD plan was considered redundant and useless. Went back to the drawing board, learned all the basics again for neural machine translation, came up with some ragtag ideas. Somehow some they worked, and then I managed to finish my PhD. Then get into I wanted to get into Google actually originally, but getting into Google is pretty much like it's a mystery. You don't even I don't know how I got in this time. I just got in, that's all I know. And back then it was like I tried once, I failed actually Google interview 3 times. It's sometimes you get in one go, sometimes it takes you 3 tries to go. And I eventually settled to become a researcher at NICT, which is a government research organization in Japan. By the way, that was probably one of the best 7 years of my life that I spent over there. Maybe, it's not a big company, but the amount of stuff I could do independently by myself was amazing. And over there, again, COVID comes in, ChatGPT comes in, and then you have a lot of stress about trying to make impact in a world which is constantly changing. But the one thing that I held on, and I what I believed in is that if I show up every day, if I keep on coming to my workplace, show up every single day, and even if I fail, even if I don't accomplish anything big, if I just keep on showing up every day, I knew I'd be able to make some impact or the other. And then things worked out. I started collaborating with IIT Madras researchers, IIT Bombay researchers. And then all of this happened in the past 3 to 4 years, 2 to 3 years at most. So it took a long time of struggle, suffering, preparation, failures. And then that momentum built, and then it just goes over, and then things started working out. Even right now, by the way, I'm experiencing extreme amount of challenges working in Google. Working in Google is not like you get in and you enjoy. There is so much of pressure and so many challenges inside. It's a huge company. There are hundreds of things you need to learn. And but but at the end of the day, it's fun. It's fun. When you struggle and you get some results at the end of the day, it's fun. And that is probably the big story that I can tell you about the question that Akshita asked.
Moving on, in your career, mentorship seems to play a strong role, both as a student under Professor Pushpak Bhattacharya and Professor Sudhav Kurohashi, and now you as a mentor yourself. What, in your view, makes a good mentor mentee relationship in research?
That's actually a very good question. So, see, I'll tell you this, right? Mentors come in variety of flavors. In my case, when I was being mentored by Professor Pushpak Bhattacharya, Professor Sadav Kurohashi, right? These were all senior professors, which means they were busy managing huge projects, a large number of students. So that means they don't necessarily have the time to manage their individual students one on one, and understandably so, because managing a big lab, managing a big organization doesn't mean you can just sit down with everybody and listen to their problems. Nevertheless, these professors, despite their busy time, actually found time to give nuggets of wisdom here and there. But they did their best. And the nice thing about that is they trusted me with my ability, and it allowed me to grow independently. It allowed me to become very independent. If they would have sat next to me and told me what to do every single of the step of the way, I probably might not have become independent. That is one type of relationship. The other type of relationship is the one that I like to practice, where because I had to grow all by myself most of the time, I promised myself I would not let my students, struggle independently. I would have an active role in mentoring them. So that is why whenever I take on a student these days, because of the transition to a new organization, I don't have as much time as I used to. But in the initial stages, like maybe 2 years ago, I would actually sit next to, like, sit as in like virtually sit next to the students, listen to what difficulties they had, help them with coding, do more hands-on stuff, like work side by side, and then help them grow. And this allows me to get that satisfaction, like, okay, they don't feel alone. Because when you're trying to do challenging things and you're trying to do challenging things by yourself, it can feel very lonely, it can feel very stressful. And I went through that. I didn't want others to go through that. These days, because I have more and more commitments, I am not able to give as much time as I want to my mentees. But I do try to make time, and this is the kind of mentorship that I practice. I personally like taking a balance of hands on and hands off, depending on the student. Like, for example, Deepan is here, right? Deepan is very independent, so I am very hands off with him. I let him do what he wants. But if there is a student who I know is very struggling, right, then in that case I'm very hands on. I like to, for the lack of a better word, micromanage some of the activities to make sure that there are more regular meetups and things are going more smoothly. I hope that answers the question.
Now, moving
Yes,
on to
definitely. Go on. Akshita, go on.
Now, moving on to the part of the talk that leverages your own wealth of experience. Dr. Dabre, our audience today is mostly students, many curious about research but also intimidated by it. If you had to break it down into steps, what should a student start doing research? What are the first concrete actions they should take?
See, here's the thing, right? Research doesn't have a definition as such, because if you're saying you're doing research, it means you're essentially on the frontier of things, you're on the cutting edge of things. It means you know as much as the experts in the field know. That is the whole idea of doing research. So, therefore, I don't think I can tell you specifically what will happen in your research journey on a specific topic that you're going to be working on. But the best way to start with research is to try to reproduce stuff that other people have done, right? Because that kind of gives you an idea of their journey, how they have gone about it. So one of the things that I typically ask new students to do is to pick up a paper, like attention is all you need, the Transformers paper. I tell them to pick up a paper on machine translation, and I tell them, try to reproduce this entire thing, right? Try to download the code, implement it by yourself, whatever you require, run the experiments for simple things like BERT, right? You can just use Hugging Face and you can use a Colab and you can reproduce some experiments. You should do that so that you understand hands on what is going on. You understand the theoretical implications by reading the research papers or blogs. And then once you run these things, right, you'll automatically look at the outputs and you can test it on your own output, on your own inputs, and you'll see, okay, this thing is missing, this thing is not working well. And when you identify things that are not working well, you call these as gaps. And then when you think, I want to fill these gaps, I want to make a better solution, that is when your research journey starts, because that is when you're trying to do something that is missing. Now, of course, it means you should be doing your due diligence, reading enough papers, finding, exploring a variety of solutions till you're sure this thing doesn't work. And when you're sure something doesn't work, your research journey starts, and that's where you're on your own. You're basically going to be exploring, trying different things till you get to a solution. By the way, research, there is no precise formula for research. It basically is invent things as you go, but logically. You can't just randomly hit, throw things at a wall and expect that you're going to come up with art. You have to use a bit of finessing, you have to use a bit of logic. But as long as you use your logical side and come up with solutions in a well principled manner, you'll be doing what we call as research. Yeah, Akshita, uh, any follow up, anything?
Yeah, so that was a great answer. Let's move on to the next question. There's often a pressure to publish papers quickly or chase hot topics. What advice would you give students about choosing research problems that are specific, not just fashionable?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so I have actually several things I want to say. Is, see, we are in an era where that publish or perish pressure has gone out of hand. When I started my research journey, a conference used to receive maybe like 400, 500, 600 submissions, and we used to select maybe 120, out of it. Now a conference gets close to 25,000 submissions, and people have to select only 2,000 or 3,000 out of them. The acceptance rates are going down, the pressure is increasing, the number of ideas are increasing, and with this whole LLM copilot, all these research pods and so on, you can essentially explore on the order of magnitudes higher number of ideas, right? So that means you really need to understand and ask yourself if publishing really has any value or not. Publishing has value for the sake of challenging yourself. But if you think publishing will really improve the quality of your life, then that is a kind of a misunderstanding. Publish because you really like the activity of writing papers, you really like the idea of innovation, you really like the activity of finding some basic problem, getting to a solution, and writing a beautiful report or a beautiful paper and sharing it with others. But if you think you'll publish and that makes you a good researcher, that is a complete misunderstanding. You can have hundreds of papers, but you can be a terrible researcher. Don't correlate papers with good research capabilities. Good research capabilities can be done even without papers. And I'll tell you, I personally, after joining Google, what I have, my belief has changed a little bit. And what I believe is that if you do good research, then people will use your research. So you can take your good idea, you can implement it, put it on GitHub, write an archive paper, put it on archive. And if your idea is really good, right, people will use it, and that's research to me. You don't have to publish in A-star conferences or anything like that. You need to show that your idea is very good and it is being used. So one case in point I'm going to make is one of my interns 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we worked on Whisper streaming. We essentially took Whisper and we converted it into a streaming model so that we can handle live speech. Now, this paper, we wrote a paper and we put it on archive. We got that paper accepted. It has maybe like 5, 10 citations at most, but on GitHub it has more than 2500 stars. Now, what does that mean? People are actually using that idea. People really want to use it. The paper itself has minimal value. People don't even read the paper. People just go to the GitHub, look at how to use it, test it in their own products, and they just use it. So that means if you good research is the one that is landed in production. Good research is the thing that is really useful to people, useful, impactful. It has an impact on hundreds of people, thousands of people. That is what I believe in. So don't just publish for the sake of publishing. Publish if you really believe that idea is going to impact many people. Of course, you can publish theoretical stuff and that's fine, but I believe in practical or applied publishing where your ideas can really go into production.
Yes, sir, that was what really matters. But nowadays, it is like a matter of convenience to use such Copilot things and easily use such other tools, Quillbot for grammar checking and all. So that's what we people are seeing as a trend now.
Yes. Yeah, see, use copilots, right? That is for accelerating your work. So those are workspace or workplace accelerating solutions, right? You can use that. I myself use a lot of copilot related stuff. We have an internal copilot thing for in Google, which really helps you, code 10 times faster than you would. But that is just to improve your coding skills. That is, sorry, to accelerate your coding. That is just used to accelerate your solution building capabilities. But what you should be doing is when you do research, ensure that that research is going to be practically useful. For example, we built IndicTrans 2. If we would have just created that model and written a paper without releasing the model, without making it publicly available, without making it open source, no license restrictions, and so on and so forth, then nobody would have used it. But we released it and then people are using it. It's being used in Wikipedia, it's being used in my company's translation systems. It was used in the expo, actually, the one in Osaka. So put out things that people will use, and actually it doesn't take too much to put out a public model, right? You can put it out on Hugging Face. Someone likes your work, they'll download it, they'll use it. That's it.
Yes, sir, that's what really matters when your work is of use to someone.
Yes,
Let's
you
move
should.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
No, just yes, exactly, you've made up the perfect conclusion to that. The whole idea is do things that are useful to people. That's all.
Yes, sir. With that, you have balanced industry research at Google and academic research at IITs. For a student, both paths look very different. What are the biggest differences, and how should a student decide which path might suit them better?
That is a very good question. Now, I don't know if I should say this or not, but my motivation for taking up an industry job is very personal. You can guess why I took up that job. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I think everybody's smart enough to guess why I took that job. I'm personally happy as an academic, right? I really come from that background where I just like to sit, read papers, come up with ideas, put out open source models. I could do that in my previous workplace. The reason why I took this up was because of some personal reasons, but you can probably guess what that is. Uh, I think, and but then after coming to industry, I found out that industry research itself is fun, because in industry there is one thing that I really like: singular focus on product. You have to land your things in product. You have to make sure whatever you do goes into product. So in Google, what is the product? It's Gemini. So all my efforts are towards improving Gemini, and I really like that, because now I don't have to look to the side. I don't have to look at Quen. I don't have to look at anyone else. I don't have to look like, oh, okay, somebody published a paper improving machine translation. I don't have to care about that. I just have to look at what is missing in Gemini and I have to improve it. So my focus is very singular, and I don't need to be distracted by 100 different things. So that is the fun part. So you should choose where you want to go depending on what your interest is, and depending on, some people have financial motivations. If you're financially motivated, go to industry. There is a lot of money to be made in industry. But if you're the kind of person who has a bit more of a, academic heart like me, right, you can continue to be in academia. I can say one thing: in academia the freedom is unparalleled. You can do whatever you want. Tomorrow you decide, like, nah, I'm not interested in machine translation, I'm going to go do something else. You can do that. No one will stop you, nobody will say anything to you. In industry you can't just necessarily do what you want. You kind of are married to a specific project, and you kind of need to make sure that you deliver on that project. Choose according to your pace. If you feel you're not the kind of person who likes to have this gun to your head saying that, oh, you deliver on this product, choose academia. But if you like that fast paced work, right, then you can choose industry. I personally found a way to get a balance between both, so I can actually go between academia and industry relatively easily, because I'm a goal oriented person. I like to deliver an outcome, and that I did already in academia. So switching over to industry was not that challenging. It is challenging, by the way, but it's just a question of adaptation.
So that's nice approach, but these two are very like extremes. Working at Google, you are like professional, and then you're working at IITs, you are like research scholar. So one has to really go into deep research about what they really have to
Yes,
choose about.
absolutely. So that is why it's a very personal journey. Okay. What you choose is really, really going to depend upon who you are as a person. And here's the thing, right? I started my research journey, what, 14 years ago, 15 years ago. It took me a long time to come to where I am. Okay. So I can tell you what my experience is, but that doesn't mean it will translate into your experience. It is a really personal thing. You're going to discover these things by yourself. But the one thing I can tell you is have a clear goal. Like, okay, if you really enjoy research, then research should be the thing that you enjoy, and you should give all of it, all of your efforts into research. No matter what happens, even if you fail 1,000 times, you have to be willing to do that. But have that goal, have that determination, and then things will settle in by itself. And you're going to have your own journey. Okay, I had my own journey, you're going to have your own journey. Just remember that other people will do their own thing, you have to do your own thing.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you suggest as the best way for someone at the start of their journey to figure out if they truly enjoy research? Like that
That's
has
good,
been a
right?
question for me as well.
Right. So, see, if you want to know if you truly enjoy research or not, is to take up a research internship in some IIT somewhere, along with a professor. Take up a small research project, see if it suits you or not. If you enjoy the whole process of navigating the unknown, then that means you are good for research. If you are like, nah, I just want to do some coding, code some stuff up and get some quick and quick solutions, then maybe research is not for you. So you really undertake, see, the best way to know who you are is to take action. Just take up some projects. IIT professors typically have some internships that are open here and there. There are also some internships openings in industry also. Many startups now, startups require a lot of interns. Take up some projects, see what you enjoy. Take both IIT projects with professors in academia, take up projects in industry with some startups, see which you like more, go there.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. By the way, there is no secret recipe. There is no proprietary recipe for how things work. Things are actually a lot more straightforward. Everybody thinks that there is some secret sauce. There's no secret sauce. It's just do things and see what you like.
Sir, another thing is about switching. If one has started at Google, they might see that opportunity at IIT is better. So, do you recommend switching or like doing both the things and getting onto such conclusion? But
Okay. That's probably not a question you should ask me, because I've played both the teams at the same time. So I could probably switch anytime I want, but if you're too deep into industry, getting into academia may not be that straightforward. But there are strategies. So, for example, in Google, there are these kind of programs called as mentorship programs. Essentially, you can volunteer to mentor other people in Google. You can volunteer to teach courses inside Google to other Googlers also. So that counts as teaching experience. And when you have teaching experience, you want to switch to industry to academia, you can probably do that. Academia doesn't necessarily mean teaching. Academia could mean you become a like a researcher or a research scientist in a research lab somewhere in academia. Just that the cycle is it's focused more on publications and more on open source stuff and more on fundamental research and not product based research. So technically you can switch. There's no rocket science behind it. But the idea is always keep your options flexible. So if you're in industry, always try to have some connections with academia. If you're in academia, always try to have connections with industry. Always have part of your foot in something else, so that there's always some kind of opportunity for you to back off and try something else.
I think that makes so much sense, sir. And also, as a follow up question, I wanted to ask this. First of all, huge fan, sir, by the way, of you. Second
Hey
thing,
man, don't. My Twitter is
okay,
a
okay.
very very specific narrow window to what I who I am.
Right, right. No, I totally get it. One of the questions which is slightly, I have two questions, sir. One of the questions being slightly cliched is, what's the role of generative AI in publishing papers, and also how do you prevent plagiarism in this sense, and how do peer reviews matter a lot in this sense? That is number one. And will the
Oh
publisher
wait, can we
perish?
can we do one question at a time? My brain is not what it used to be, so I
Okay,
can't
okay,
remember
okay.
everything. Okay, so
Okay,
what
so
you're
yeah,
saying is what
essentially
is the
generative
role of
AI. Yes, sir.
right? What is
Essentially,
the role
generative
of
AI is the
generative
first.
AI in research? So
Huh.
now, see, so you're essentially asking me of the role of co-pilots and all of these things in the process of doing research, right?
Correct, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so see, these things are here to accelerate your work. Okay, for example, one of the things. Oh, by the way, you asked how to start research, right? This is probably what I would do if I had access to these tools like 10 years ago. I would just come up with a very dumb idea, and I'd just give it to Gemini, or I'd give it to Grok, or I'd give it to any of these AIs which have deep research capabilities. And I'd say, based on this, can you suggest a better idea or a better research plan? Can you look up existing research ideas that are similar, and just give me like a big kind of a report or review? That will actually allow you to see if these models can actually come up with a viable research plan or not. Sometimes, most of the time, the ideas will probably be dumb, but once in a while they come up with some very interesting nuggets. Because what these deep research models do is they explore the web. They'll look at 40, 50, 60 different web pages. They'll look at things related to the keywords. They'll read like these research papers, and they'll consolidate all into a report. Now it will be very interesting to see if what idea you had in mind has already been explored or not. And that could actually be a very starting point that can really accelerate, right? Instead of you reading 100 papers, if Gemini can do that for you and summarize, then that's actually a very good thing. So you should be leveraging these kind of tools to accelerate your pace of research. Now this is a bit of a selfish promotion for my friend. So there, my friend is actually creating a company called Veritas AI. So I'll just type it down in case you're interested. So this is by my friend Manas Kala. And what he wants to do is he really wants to accelerate the pace of research. And right, there's 1,000 papers coming up on archive every other day, and you don't know which one to read. You don't know which one is relevant. So he's creating this company and basically a service to accelerate this pace for you. So you really don't have to read 1,000 papers, but you can ask this AI, which is the most relevant thing for me. Now Gemini can do that, but Gemini has 1,000 other capabilities. It might not be optimized for this specific task. So he's creating a company to do that. Co-pilots are good. Please, if you are, of course, you should learn basic coding things by yourself. But if you are planning to build a pipeline for, let's say, sentiment classification or machine translation, and you think you're going to build that from scratch, that is going to be extremely slow. It's good to do that. It's good from a learning perspective. But just use these tools, right? These are here to accelerate. These are very important parts of your research journey. I would say that you should learn how to adapt and use them. AI is not going to replace everybody. AI is going to replace people who don't use AI.
Right, so that was, I think, insightful, and I think the last line was something that everybody should be keeping in mind. Uh, so moving on, I felt so again, this is not completely related to the aspects of research, but slightly related to life in general. Wherein I wanted to ask you this question because I felt you might have an answer based out on your experiences. So, is success luck or hard work? The reason I'm asking you this is because No, this is something which is slightly related to what I saw from
Hmm.
you. Is that certain papers might get a lot more engagement than
Hmm.
certain other papers, and this is same in your academia as well, or
Hmm.
through life as well. When certain work which you had invested so much hours, you're putting so much time, it doesn't
Hmm.
really get the recognition you deserve. But
Hmm.
then certain works where it's a bathroom thought and you like get so much of engagement. So what do
Yes.
you think, your thoughts about this, your take about
I am the perfect person to answer that question, and I'll tell you why. Because some of my amazing ideas are all bathroom thoughts. Okay, so 2018, I had finished my PhD, and I was really inspired because I hadn't come up with anything spectacularly novel during my PhD. So I was like, kuch bhi karke, I want to propose an idea which is very simple but very effective. So I was actually in the bathroom and I was thinking, hey, why are these transformer models having independent parameters in every single layer? What if I all shared everything along all the layers? And I was like, I can do this in one line of code change, right? I went, made that code change, ran this, and I got very interesting results. Put it in a paper, I got accepted to triple AI. This was back in 2018, 2019. And unfortunately, because I was not in Google, I was just in this very small research organization in Japan, never got the traction. Parallelly, at the same time, Google people were exploring the idea called as universal transformers. You may have heard of it. Maybe if not, just Google it quickly. It is the same exact idea that I was working on. But the same idea can pop up in the minds of two people. If it's the same idea, it should get the same popularity. But universal transformers got cited way more time, like order of magnitude higher times than me. Why? Because timing matters, advertisement matters, and really being loud about what work you do really matters. So that's why do you think I have such a popping Twitter? The reason why I have a popping Twitter is because I need to promote myself. Unfortunately, in this world of AI, you have to promote yourself. If you're not promoting yourself, it's really shooting yourself in the foot. So you have to promote yourself. You have to be a bit loud. You have to sell yourself. At the end of the day, you are the product, so you have to sell yourself.
Sir, just a follow-up question with the Gen AI thing. So recently you had a paper published completely by AI, written solely by AI, that passed all peer reviews too.
Yes.
So what's your take on that? So like,
Oh, okay. So again, this is going to be a minor complaint, but peer review is horribly broken. You can literally get a terrible paper through peer review because what is happening is the number of papers being pushed into peer review is so high that unqualified people, literally unqualified people, are reviewing papers. People who have no idea about research are reviewing papers. Man, if you joined your bachelor's just 6 months ago and I gave you a paper to review, I have no trust in your reviewing skills. But unfortunately, the number of papers coming in are so high, it's just impossible. That's why these papers will pass through the cracks. And it's just a question. And on the other hand, exceptionally great papers will get rejected. I'll give you an example. There was one paper that I had to go through 4 rounds of peer review just before it got accepted. There was a paper which got a out no it got the best paper award last year in EMNLP in Miami. This paper was got the best paper award, but just 2 iterations before it was rejected, and 1 iteration before it was recommended as a findings paper, which is not considered as a core contribution but more like an interesting nugget that the program chair said. So that means really depending on who you see, who reviews your paper can get accepted, it can get an award, or it can get rejected. So this is a very noisy. This is why I said paper acceptance is not really a good indicator of your research skills. Uh, yeah, you have to consider the content of the research rather than just you know uh, just like, oh, okay, this paper published in some top tier conference. Some of my fun papers have not been published in top tier conferences. Like one of my favorite papers was my internship outcome in Google like 9 years ago, which had just done some fun stuff, and it got published in this tier 2 tier 3 conference called Paclic. Probably one of the best experiences of my life. I went to Philippines and I had some great Philippines food, and I interacted with some really cool people. They were in this, even though this is a tier 2 conference, right? It's a great experience. So don't read too much into citation counts, don't read too much into conference names. Look at the content. Of course, good work will go into good conferences, but that doesn't mean all good work goes into good conferences. So be a bit careful when drawing that nuance.
Sure, sure, sure. Thank you.
Now let's moving on to some broader reflections of your journey. If you look at the field of AI and NLP today, especially in India, what do you think are the most exciting frontiers? What are some topics that you anticipate will excite you and will shape your future research works?
All right. So here's the thing. Let me see if let's play a guessing game. I want people in the audience to tell me what they think is the hottest, let's say, AI application or AI technology that they think. So anybody who wants to say like, oh, okay, I think this is probably the hottest thing to do today. Anybody in the audience wants to chime in and say, please raise your voice. Yeah, Prakhar, tell me.
Good morning, sir. So I think video generation.
Yes. Video generation is good, but there's something more fundamental before video generation that is very, very, very hot that I think still needs to be adopted widely and applied widely. Computer vision is good too. AI automation is a very broad keyword. Okay, I'll get to the answer. It's audio. Okay, as Indians, we are all obsessed with audio. We use WhatsApp to type messages, but we like audio notes. Everything wants to be has to be controlled by audio. And if you look at some of the hottest AI topics or AI research that's going on in India, if you look at any of the big tech, like the startup companies, they are investing a lot in audio technologies. And for example, you take a look at yeah, music and songs, that's good. So audio is probably one of the interesting areas to work on. It's a fairly mature field, but when it comes to applying audio based technologies into products, right, it's still underrated in my opinion. And audio in India is a challenging thing because we've got 22 official languages, and then we have dialects, we have accents, we have so many things that cannot be done so well. So that is why solving the audio problem is probably going to be one very, very, very important thing to do. And as you know, Professor Mitesh Kapra in IIT Madras, he focuses so much on audio research. Why do you think that is? It is because that is the one thing that is very prevalent in our lives right now. Audio is the thing that connects, like the sounds, right? Sounds is the first thing that connects us. Before using words, before typing in things, sounds are the things that we hear the most. Those are the most fundamental things to us. That is why I think investing in audio technology is probably the best usage of your time. Of course, time is going to run out. This field is accelerating really fast, but get some experience in audio and speech related stuff. Text related stuff is pretty mature, pretty advanced, but audio related stuff is good. And then of course go into video and images, computer vision. That's fun stuff, but audio is really hot right now in India. It's probably the best place to work with, because there are so many people, there are so many dialects, so many opportunities to collect data, so many opportunities to try out some niche things specific to a particular group of people, specific to a specific group of language speakers, and so on. Virtual world and meta world, you'll have to talk to Zuck. I don't know much about it.
Sir, do you think that cultural and linguistic diversity in sounds poses a unique challenge for research in this field?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Right.
if you know, I don't know how much you know about this, but you should try to take a look at the AI research that is coming out of Google research in India or Google DeepMind in India. You will see that a lot of it centers around culture. Okay. And India, as you know, is a tapestry of many, many cultures, many different ways of thinking, and so on and so forth. And these generative AI models, despite how impressive they are at maths and science, they still suck at cultural understanding nuances, understanding multiple languages. Whenever you involve multiple languages in a single query, what the response should be, these models still struggle at doing that. So this is an exciting opportunity to work on the intersection of text, audio, culture, and so on. So 100%, yes, what you said is completely right.
Could I just jump in with a follow up?
Yeah,
So
please.
you mentioned that audio and AI is the hottest space right now. So, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for AI to transform accessibility for people with disabilities in particular?
Yep. So see, that is actually one of the best things about AI, right? For example, people who are paraplegic or people who have paralysis, audio is probably the best way to get them to interact with an AI and get things done. So that's probably one thing. Identify a disability, identify what is the modality that they can use, and then find a solution for it. That is probably the easiest, simplest thing that I can say about it. There is stuff for, like, there are deaf people, right? People who have hearing difficulty. You can develop AI technologies which will help supplement their lack of hearing ability with something else. You can always think about, see, here's the thing, right? Talk to people with disabilities, talk to people who are differently abled, see what they want, get their use cases. You can come up with a solution or a small mini idea overnight, and it could be a big success. It's just up for grabs. So yeah, speech tech for disabled is a thing. There are some people who might have stutters. There are some people who might have speech disabilities. You can develop speech technologies which can use their limited speech capabilities and translate them into things that they can actually use. Many possibilities there. I can say one thing: creativity is what is going to uh, either make it or break it. So the more creative you are, the more you identify real problems by talking to people, by actually doing case studies, is how you'll get to interesting problems to solve.
So continuing off of what you said, so we need to get into the field, do some field work of our own, talk to people with
Yes,
disabilities.
yes. Get your
But how
hands
do
dirty. Getting your hands dirty is very important.
so how do we ensure that they don't remain just prototypes, and how do we ensure that they actually get adopted, and so the benefits of research gets deployed rightly?
Right. So see, I am a believer of, if it is useful, people will use it. So if you come up with something that's useful, people will use it. Of course, you need to be very loud about your work, right? You need to publicize your work. This is why you created this organization, right? Razor, right? Now you should try to publicize it. You should try to make it an organization so it can become a pedestal for your members to actually shout out and get the attention of other people. Get people to talk. Get invite. You invited me, right? I'm just one person. So you invite people from variety of organizations, make them aware of the activities of your students, publish letters, ask your members to write blog articles, to write some reports, whatever it is. Okay, someone among you was curious, wanted to figure out how blind people are using technologies, AI technologies. All right, fine, go ahead, get this person to write a report and make the activities of your club or your group well known. Then it can become a place where your activity, suppose you come up with some crazy idea, you want to publicize it, you're famous, okay, good, then you have a stage to speak on. Do that. Publicity is important.
Akshita, any more questions from your end?
Yeah, there is. Finally, if you could give one message to every student here about the spirit of research, not the technical side, but the mindset, what would it be?
Oh boy, how do I make this very simple without traumatizing you? Okay, I think the simplest thing I can say is, you're going to be traumatized if you get into research. Research is not for the weak of heart. If you have a weak heart, do something easier. uh, but research is basically like essentially wanting to hurt yourself. At the end of the day, it feels very good because you get some outcome out of it, but it essentially is, for the lack of a better word, it's for people who like to hurt themselves. I like to hurt myself. It's fun at the end of the day. They say, right, there can be no happiness without suffering. Research is that suffering. There is happiness at the end of it. Yeah, I hope this doesn't turn you off research. I really hope this inspires you to do research, because only people who challenge in their life can become really happy in the longer term future.
Thanks, sir. A very masochistic answer.
See, you use the word, not me. I was about to say that, but I didn't use that word. Yeah, Prakhar.
Hello, sir. Sir, I have a specific question related to my work.
Yeah.
So I am starting my first research paper, and I'm pretty sure this. I know it is going to be challenging, but recently when I started working on it, I have stuck to a very complex situation. So my question is, how can I tell that this difficulty is something I can overcome, or I have taken something for which I'm not ready yet?
That's a very good question. See, here's the thing, right? Um, Sometimes it's very common to be stuck on a problem for weeks and weeks on end. Uh, it depends on whether you really want to solve this problem to the end or not. See, basically it's an ego thing. Do you have that ego that I'm going to do this no matter what, or would you rather work on something easier? If you want to work on something easier, that's fine. Sometimes it takes a bit of ego to get to that solution at the end of the day. Whether you're ready or not doesn't matter. If you're not ready, then you grind, you work hard, you get to that solution. But getting to a very high level of productivity and a good level of research takes time, unfortunately. Research is not that आज project चालू किया कल हो गया. It doesn't work like that. It takes time. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. Hopefully it doesn't take years, but it will take time. So give yourself that time. Be patient with yourself. That is very important. One thing is there, you have to be very patient with yourself. Research requires an ungodly amount of patience, so take time.
One more thing, sir. Sir, the field I'm working in, the paper I'm working on, it is cross-disciplinary.
Yeah.
So I'm working on the data science end, and
Yes.
the paper actually is on protein structure,
Very
specifically
interesting.
viral protein structure.
Very interesting.
So
Very interesting.
yeah, so they gave me access to the database, and there are such images that I cannot even begin to comprehend.
Yeah.
So I cannot begin to see them first of all,
Yes.
let alone visualizing and comprehending them.
Yes.
So how to tackle this cross-disciplinary thing?
Communication. You have to talk to the experts. If you're not the expert, get the help of an expert, right? They know what the images look like. You're doing the data science, you're crunching numbers, but the expertise on what an image contains, what it looks like. See, here's the thing, right? When it comes to research, you get your use cases by talking to people, right? Somebody gives you a problem, okay, solve me, create me an AI for blind people. But if you don't know difficulties what blind people face without talking to blind people, what are you going to do? You're going to come up with a solution that only people who can see can come up with. So talk to those people. Communication in cross-disciplinary is extremely important. You have to develop extremely good communication skills. See, here's the thing. It's okay to sound like an idiot. If you go to that person and you say, oh no, I don't understand what this image is supposed to be, what is supposed to convey. If they think you're an idiot, good. That's good. At least you'll get an answer. Get an answer from them. That is where you'll start filling in those gaps. Otherwise, you're going to just be wondering, no, I'll figure it out on my own. I'm smart. I'll figure it out. I should be able to figure it out. You should be, but sometimes it's just better to ask. Asking is so easy. You ask, you get answers. Most of the time, people are very nice. They'll give you answers. Unless they don't know, in which case you're in trouble.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I'll give it one more try.
Yeah,
Thank you.
communication. Please, everything in life is about communication. You have to communicate well.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Professor Dabre. Your journey really shows us that research isn't about results. It's about curiosity, persistence, and impact. I'm sure everyone here is walking away with both inspiration and practical insights. With that, I'll hand it back to Samyukta for the next segment.
Thank you, Akshita, and thank you so much, Professor Dabre, for that insightful conversation. You've tackled many of our burning questions. So, for our next segment, we'll be shifting our perspectives just a little from a senior researcher to a young undergraduate who's already making his mark. So, our next speaker now will be Mr. Deepan Halder, who is a BTech student in Information Technology at IIEST Shibpur. So, alongside his coursework, Deepan has worked on projects with IIT Madras, IIT Bhubaneswar, and IIEST itself. So, one of his recent works caught our attention here at Razor, which was Cycle Distill, which explores machine translation for low resource languages using a process called cycle distillation wherein I believe models generate and refine their own synthetic data. So, what makes a Deepon story particularly valuable is that it shows us that research is not bound by age, title, or seniority. It can start as early as you're curious enough to ask those questions and persistent enough to chase those answers. So, to take us through this conversation, like I mentioned, Siddharth will be taking over as our host. So, over to you.
Thank you, Samukta, for that warm intro of Deepon. So, Deepon, it's great to have you here with us. We all have been looking forward to this conversation because your journey as a student searcher is something many of us can relate to and at the same time aspire to. So, a very warm welcome from the Result team.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today here.
Yes. So, Deepon, before starting, just a few questions to start out with. So, as a third year undergraduate, you have already worked on several research papers across IITs. So, how did you first get into research? Like, there was a particular moment of influence or something that inspired you or drew you into this path?
So for me, this thing started pretty early, like even I would say in the school times. So what happened is I didn't like research per se or like anything per se. The main thing which I liked is just like solving problems or like finding out new stuff is something which I always wanted to do in school. So I used to make random projects in school and everything like the projects which are very prevalent now, like those sign language detection models and everything. So I used to make them in school time and everything. But after came to college, I tried out a lot, as in the usual job path through DSA and everything. And I tried out everything, but at the end of the day, I found out that this is something which I like. So this is what I went with. That's it. At the end of the day, research is something which gives me mental peace at the end of the day. That's the thing. That is the reason I do it.
I see, I see. That's great. Coming from childhood itself. Okay. So, and the question, small question, like you have the opportunity to work with a lot of IITs like IIT Madras, IIT Bhubaneswar, and your own institute too. So, just to all for all the students, could you let us know how did these opportunities came from? Like, what was your process of applying or connecting with mentors and stuff?
So the thing that people don't see is that even before these opportunities, there are rejections in hundreds. The thing is that, and the main thing I believe is that all of them have a bit of luck. Like 10% luck has to be there. So for even in my college, the research internship which I did was I got it just because like there was a sudden vacancy and the project needed someone to like the project was on its end. Okay, so the main problem that the people, okay, so at that time in 2024 mid you didn't have that good coding agents. So like the coding agents were decent but they were not that good, and the project that was going on was very novel, so there was nobody to code it, and the person who was coding it went to US. So I had to fill in, and yeah. Yeah, sorry, I cannot show my face right now because I'm traveling right now back home. That I'm like having this call in Uber. So, so the thing is that so that is the luck factor that came in here. And again, even in the IIT Bhubaneswar one, it was again lucky because they had like only two vacancies, and I had like 50 or 60 rejections before that one. And I just literally just applied that was out of desperation I had applied, and like I got in, and it was a very good project as well. Like it I think it was a Microsoft grant project, and even for AI for Bharat also I think it was again luck because because when my Bhubaneswar internship ended, at that same moment when I was going to start applying to the summer internship, and again this opportunity came up through a common connection with me and Raj sir, and yeah, then things fell into places. So at the end of the, I would say the only common thing is through all of this is that you have to show up every day. As Raj also said, ki you whatever the scenario is, please show up every day, and I feel like these luck shit will happen more in life.
Yeah, that's true. Even I am also trying to contact a mentor, so it's mostly I will be contacting later on. So that's how I think it matters. Contacting again and again, and trying to connect with mentors as much as you can, mailing them and stuff. True. So moving on to the next question. So
Um,
yeah,
I have a question. As you mentioned that you started experimenting in school, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Could you elaborate more on that?
So the thing is that I would like personally, I would say the thing is that my parents have always edged me towards in that direction to always think and pursue something which is not being pursued. So since I was a kid, I always loved solving problems, as in like not necessarily machine learning problems, any kind of problem, mathematical problems, or anything like that. The main spark I would say was that happened was the when Tesla came out. If you remember, this was like 2017 or 18. I don't remember exactly. So and that time, like my school was also very supportive in this. They had given us funds and grants, so we had made this small Tesla prototype. Okay, self-driving car for over a year. This was in class 7 or 8. So that is the thing that like started like curiosity. I needed, so for that project I had to learn a lot of coding, and that time we just had YouTube and like I think few books to learn stuff. I would have loved if there was ChatGPT back then. It would be easier to learn.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah, just call me sir, man. I'm not that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a research opportunity under Rajnikant sir of IISc Bangalore. So basically, it is in plasma priming of seeds to improve the crop yielding. So as a AI student and data science student, do you want me to pursue it or not?
Yeah, I have no idea about the topic, and I think the best person to answer this question is you yourself. Like, I personally would say you go and sit out and see the pros and cons and see which is the best scenario for you. Like, this decision cannot be made by somebody other than you.
Okay.
any other questions, guys, or shall we move on? Okay, let's move on then. Deepon, now coming to your recent paper regarding cycle distill. So that was a very ambitious and interesting problem regarding the machine translation for low resource languages. So if you could just spare a few 5 to 10 minutes and explain your paper, like how did you went through it, what was the ideation, and how does it stand out from the contemporary papers and stuff. It would be great for all the people out
Yeah,
there.
sure. I have a small PPT. I'll share it. I think that would be
Great.
better.
That's great. Yeah.
Give me a sec. Can you see my screen?
Yep. Yep. We can.
Okay. So wait, let me adjust my setup a bit. Yeah. Okay. So the main thing is that I'll show you an example and show why we did this. The first thing is that we have Google Translate, we have good models which you can use on a daily basis. But the main problem is that they don't target low resource languages. So for example, this is an example from Llama 8B. Okay. So this is the Manipuri Meitei script, and this is the whoever can read Manipuri will understand this is wrong. The actual translation is this. So you can understand how wrong this is. So,
I am actually from Manipur, but I did not understand it. I was like, what is this?
okay. So this is the
Yeah.
Manipuri Meitei script. This is actually taken from the BPCC data set of AF of Bharat. It's made by us only. And we took this.
Okay.
So, and the thing is
So
that,
let me just quickly chime in over here. I think Methi script is one script, but there are other representations also. It might depend on what you've grown up with.
so the so this is the actual translation, and this is the translation that was done by the model. So we can see that there is a stark difference and everything. So the main bottleneck that comes is that we don't have data for low resource languages. Okay, so for example, as Manipuri, Methi script, we have many other Indian languages which don't have this data. So that's why we use something called the cycle distill. What we have we have done some back knowledge for that is like we use a core concept of distillation. So what happens in distillation? You have one teacher AI and one student AI. Okay, so the teacher AI is better knowledgeable than the student AI. Now what happens is that we have the teacher AI generating its outputs, as in like it will tell, if you give it the question, it will give it the answer, and then we train the student AI on the outputs given by the teacher AI. So basically, what we are trying to do is that the student AI knows a bit about the topic. The teacher AI tries to make it as intelligent, as smart as itself. But now, what will you have as a final product? You will have a much smaller model having the knowledge of a much bigger model. That is the idea of knowledge distillation that we used in our paper. So the cycle distill, the main idea was bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is that, in simple word, jugaad lagana. So we did, at the essence, we did that only. So this is the main diagram of the paper, and I'll explain this in a short way. So first, you start with any AI model which is pre-trained and everything. That is the M0. Now we generate synthetic data. So we have monolingual data, as in like, let's say English to Hindi, right? So we have the English data, and we are telling the much better model, the teacher model, the bigger model, to generate the Hindi part now. After that is done, we have the synthetic data generated. Now we train the student model, so that this student model is now trained on the data um, generated by the main first M0. Now we do this process iteratively. So now what happens in the next step, the student model becomes the teacher model. And we continue this process iteratively. So in the paper, we have done it 3 times in totality. So this is the first process we had done. This is the main idea of cycle distill. The second thing we had done is softmax preserving distillation or soft distillation in the paper. So for example, let's say when you are translating a word, right? So for example, all these models work on next token predictions. How do this next token prediction happen? Let's say I'm writing I love cats, right? So I love, and the next token, the output is given as a probability curve. Okay, so let's say the top probability is 52% for cats, then 10% for dogs, and so on. So in this example, let's say if the next word is read, the teacher might think the next word might be 60% read, 30% likes, 10% reading. So it can be any out of these. You get the probability distribution as an output. Okay. So what we try to do in this process, in the soft distillation, we do the same thing that we did earlier, but we try to add another factor in the distillation, where the student is also trying to learn the distribution, the softmax distribution, or the probability distribution of the teacher. Okay, so if this is the diagram from the paper, so basically, let's say we have this translation, usne kitab padhi. So she read the book. Okay. So the thing is that the teacher model and the student model priorities might not be same, and will not be same most of the cases. So what we do is that we have this KL divergence loss. So KL divergence, simple bhasha mein, KL divergence, it means how much is one thing different from another thing. Okay. So what we have, so if we take the KL divergence of like the student and the teacher, if they're very different, the value will be very high. So we try to minimize this KL divergence, so that the difference becomes as less as possible. So this is the main idea of the second thing. So we took two sets of models, Gemma 9B to 2B. Llama 8B to 3B, and we use three languages, Hindi, Bengali, and Malayalam, to conduct our experiments. The reasoning is simple. Hindi is so these go in decreasing order of their difficulty. So Malayalam is much harder to understand for models as compared to Hindi. In that perspective, we took that. And now, how do we grade this AI's translation? So let's say you got the translation. How do we grade it? So we use CHRF. So it's a much better way. For example, if I get a output, for example, this machine translation is good, and the machine, this is the ground truth, and the output is this machine translate is good. So here you kind of understand the machine understood it, right? The LLM understood what it's doing. The nuances are there. So CHRF can if you do it character level stuff, you can correctly get a higher score, understanding that the model is currently understanding what it has to do. So the setup we did was that we took 20,000 sentences from BPCC seed, which is the AIF Bharat data set for fine tuning, and we ran this whole thing 3 cycles, because after 3 cycles we saw that the gains were plateauing, so it was not worth it to run it for more cycles. So initially we were seeing we had a raise of 20 to 30 points of CHRF. So on a ground level, let's consider around 30 CHRF, 30 to 40 plus to be readable. Okay, 40 plus means it's readable translation. Okay, and so initially it was giving very low. So this is for Llama 8B, which was distilled to 3B. Initially, for it was giving very low CHRF, means it was spitting nonsense. So after even one or two iterations, we saw that it increased sharply, and so we got around a score of 53 or 54 on this case, and which means it was legible translation in most cases. So we also found out that the AI was performing best when we had one shot. Okay, one shot as in, like, whenever you're giving any input, you give one example with it. If you're giving three examples, it's called three shots, so that the model can kind of learn what the question and the answer is, and maybe get some insight from that. So for four shot, we saw that the prompt was becoming very long and it was losing context. Okay, so even more complex grammar question was giving it was giving worse and worse result. So giving more instructions can become confusing, is what we have learned in this case. And we had also a small ablation saying ki, does a better teacher always make a better student? We saw in zero shot it does, in one shot it does not, in four shot we didn't count it in because it was the context problem was there. So the thing is that the better teacher, how do we classify this better teacher? We saw that if we plotted the student CHRF gain versus the teacher model's own CHRF, okay, and saw that for zero shot it is on the higher end, in one shot it's well distributed, on four shot we did not consider it. And additionally, we did two experiments, one Nepali and one Manipuri. Nepali was on Devanagari script, which the main problem with models is that they confuse Hindi with Nepali a lot. Okay, then the script is same, but in our case, we saw Nepali had a good amount of improvement, and even after the third iteration, we were seeing around 54%, as you can see here. And the main thing is that we saw that the soft distillation was performing way better in the case of the Nepali. But Manipuri failed for us because the main problem is that you have to generate the initial data. To generate the data set, you have to, the model has to know some of that language. Okay, so as you saw initially, Manipuri was not being able to be spoken by the model at all. So at the end of the day, we could not, our process fails in Manipuri and does not work there. So you need a decently medium resource language to very high resource language. To extremely low level languages are the roadblock that we hit during the paper. And finally, we did two model analysis, which is better, and we saw Gemma models performing much better than Llama models in all our experiments. And finally, what did we learn? That cycle distill is like a very data efficient way, because at the end of the day, okay, so all the experiments were generated, the distillation data was generated with only 4 prompts. So you just need 4 examples and you can do all of this. You don't need any other resources. All you need is 4 parallel data sets, 4 examples from a parallel data set. That's it. And by teaching a model in its cycle, we don't need to have any massive pre-existing data sets. And there, the main problem that we saw is that I actually messed up in one iteration. So apparently, if you mess up in one iteration, the error goes exponentially high. So you have to be very cautious while you're doing the experiments. So in my case, what I did was that I took the Malayalam output from the first iteration and I trained the Hindi model in the second iteration. And I realized it 2 weeks later. So, and the thing is that if you do something like this, the CHRF drops to like 2 3, and it like exponentially decreases. So you should not do this. And yeah, the context thing which I had told you. And finally, this is the paper website and this is the paper link. You can scan it if you want and get to know more about the paper. I'll let it be on for like 10-15 seconds. I'll send it in the chat as well.
Just drop the link of the paper, Deepan.
Yeah, that would be better. I'll drop both of them. Just check it out.
Thanks for that presentation, Deepan. It was really great. Just a follow-up question, Deepan here. The context dilution for morphologically rich language, I think it's an issue not now, from a long time. So basically, in generally, when we do prompting, context dilution helps a lot of times. But LLMs do hallucinate when it comes to morphologically rich languages. So do you have any further plans to optimize that?
Currently, in this paper, not, but in future, in a general perspective, yes, there might be.
Okay. So any other questions from chat regarding the paper itself? We can tackle them right now.
For cyclical distillation experiments, what kind of data volume and computations? Data volume was like 20,000 examples only, so it is not that much. So like you can and compute resources is that I would say is okay. So the thing is that I think Raj knows the compute, what we had to do for the compute. Like initially, all the things were run on like it. The whole experiments can be run on Colab, by the way. And yeah, so like at one moment when, and most of the time it was run on one H100, I guess. And like, and in the final stages, what we had to do is that I actually got two 3090s and I had to distribute the things between the 3090s. We were getting around like 50-60% of like T-flops of a H100. So yeah, so like the thing I feel like, research does not only require ki paper karo, research karo and everything, that you also have to go out of the box, understand the scenario and also adapt to the scenario and do stuff, because at the end of the day you have to do that.
Hey, I want to chime in over here and I want to give a nice example of tenacity and fine, I'll do it myself kind of a thing, right? So when Deepan joined us as a intern in AFA Bharat, at that point of time we were going through a compute crunch because things were in transition. Like we had some project stuff trying to finish. So even though he had joined in, I promised him that hey, you'll have access to a few GPUs here and there to do your research, but unfortunately, it was not there. This dude was like, no problem, I'll figure something out. He starts using the GPU that he has on his PC for some reason, and he starts doing the experiments on his own PC, starts doing proof of concept tests on his own PC. But that was not enough. So I told him, like, we have to use Colab. So you try to use one Colab and get some POC done. He's like, no problem. I'll use 4 collabs because he has 4 or 5 Gmail accounts and he uses a Gmail account a collab associated with each Gmail account. He literally bought his own compute, whatever free tier compute is there. And essentially, what I want to say is that just because some resource was not there, right? it didn't stop Deepan. And even I, like, someone like me would probably like, no, okay, then I'll wait for 2 weeks till the compute comes back. But you were like, then I don't want to waste my time here. I'll figure out a solution. And he actually figured out a solution. So I think that is very important. What is stopping you is basically your own laziness at the end of the day. And this guy, he did not want to be stopped. He just wanted progress. He figured out a solution. And that is what you should try to do. Essentially, if you're not making progress, try to think whether you're being lazy or not. And most of the times, it is just laziness that's all that stops you. A person who's determined will never stop. And just my anecdotal experience with Deepan. I always tell this story to people, like how this dude bought his own GPU and started doing research instead of us who should have been providing the GPUs.
This begs the question: was there any personal inspiration that motivated this tenacity to go forward at all
Or
times?
that is something Deepan should definitely answer.
Yeah, for me, I think that is nothing. I just so I don't like if there's a problem sitting and it's not being solved. Like I would love to solve that problem. That is the thing. So the thing is that if you don't have a problem, that's okay. But like even in the lab, like the lab, when like I realized ki when I went to the lab, there were like three GPUs just sitting there, nobody using it. So the first thing, like if he's from my lab, Ashwin, and Ashwin and me just sat for a weekend and we literally fixed three PCs with nothing, just with except Gemini to help with us. We just opened Gemini on laptop and like we were asking it questions how to solve this, help, and we fixed it. So I feel at the end of the day, it does not matter what you're doing and what is happening. You if you have the drive to solve problems and do stuff, that's it. If you really want to do stuff, you will do stuff. That is the thing.
But why low resource languages particularly?
So the main reason for low resources languages is that I feel, see, I have been to many places in India, and everybody, most people, I tell them about my work, and they say the same thing. Like the model does not speak my language. So the models currently can speak around like 10 to 15 languages on a fluent basis. Okay, the other languages to some extent, yes. So there are like thousands of languages in India which we don't even we won't even have touched. So at the end of the day, let's say if your language is not, I would give you an anecdotal experience. So I was on a space on Twitter and I was saying just ki, like I would love if people come up, do their own, like get their own data, because it's not possible for anyone to go to like every village in this country and do that, right? So this guy literally DM'd me ki, bhaiya, I have actually, my language is dying. I have like 200 speakers. And he sat down for a month and he recorded all the speech data, all the text data for it himself, and he sent it. So that is the thing I'm saying na, ki, like, I know people of this country really want to help towards it, but and they really help towards it. That's the reason, like this motivates me every day, that people coming together to solve a common problem.
That's a great take and the great perspective and motivation for sure, no doubt. So, yeah, any other questions? I think there was a question from the chat. Tanisha asked it. What's one common myth about training AI in the new languages you would like to bust?
Yeah, so what is a common myth about training AI in new languages? I have no idea. Like I don't understand what is the question asking as well. Like what do you want to?
So I think as far as I can understand, I think Tanisha can explain better. But as far as I can understand, what she means is that maybe we have a certain trend that, oh, if we are training about this language, we should go this way, or we should use this implication. Like as far as I can understand that.
Yeah, like I feel like, yeah, like one thing which Raj sir has told me many times, loss curves don't mean anything. So please do evaluations after that. I would say that.
Sorry. I have a question. Do you think multilingual AI will ever reach a point where it can truly support thousands of languages?
I can answer that. Yes.
Okay.
Like
What do you think?
personally, even what I want to do as compared to like different approaches is try to find a universal approach, like let's say a language A to B or B to A, irrespective of the language, like processes that can be done. I think if that is solved, many issues will be solved.
Also, do you think there would be any ethical concerns because you're taking data from small communities?
As I don't know about others, like at least for AI for Bharat, everything is sourced ethically only. Like people
Okay.
are paid compensation and everything is done.
All right.
So by the way, we hire people. We hire linguists and annotators. So people are paid the hourly wage, which is common for their work that they do. And that is actually a requirement because we are a government-funded organization, right? So we are by law required to do things ethically, and it is the right thing to do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, somebody asked, can the cycle distillation process be compared to the data flow from one net? How can you compare this? I don't think it can be compared like that. It's basically it's basically sequence distillation, but you're doing it many times. That is like in a single word. That is the meaning.
Any other questions from the chats? Someone wants to put out something regarding the paper. Shall we move on then, Sumita?
Yeah, go ahead with your questions.
Yep. So coming back to some other questions, Deepon. So like as a full-time undergraduate and balancing your coursework as well and research projects and writing impactful papers, it's all very challenging. So how do you manage all that? Like any advice for the students?
So I would suggest everyone to like मतलब in Hindi I would say like जब जो काम करना है तब वो करो, as simple as that. So don't try to mix everything up, it will become very hectic. Like even like in recent, like last 2 weeks I had midsems, right? So I could not work on my research projects that much, right? So the way I used to work on research stuff with doing my midsem is that मैं सुबह उठ के करता था. I used to do it, all my paper writing used to be done in the morning, and रात को I used to study and go and give the exam. That's it. So and additionally, like you have like on campus placements and everything is there, right? So you have to manage all of these together. So it's better if you like segment your day. Like don't don't try to do I personally don't do this. Personally, don't do everything at the same time. It will become a bit stressful, but if you can manage it, it will be a smooth ride.
Got it. Thanks for answering that, Deepon. So finally, last question. Like if you had to share one piece of advice to students who are curious about stepping into research and just starting their way out, so what it could be?
So personally, in my experience, what I have seen, research is 90% failure, 10% success, and you just wait for that 10% to come. And it's just don't quit. Some days will become very frustrating. Some days where like there'll be some months where you don't get any results, where you feel no progress is happening, but that's just in your mind. So please, when you're getting into it, please give your best, show up every day, and don't quit. That's the main thing. If you quit, that does not make sense. So please give your best and don't quit, and I'm sure you can do it.
Looking back, would you change anything or do you regret doing anything in the process?
No, I feel like I have like see, I had this one regret. Why didn't I start earlier? Okay, so the thing is that one can always have that regret, but if I did not have the experiences earlier, I would not have been what I am today. So maybe the earlier experiences shape me currently. So I feel like everything happens for a reason, and like one should not think like even if you fail like 10 interviews in a row, right? So that also happens for a reason. So every interview, like even for the interview I gave in Air for Bharat, right? So the reason I could like do a bit better is the reason is the main reason is that because I had failed so much interviews, I knew what I was going to do wrong. Okay, so I improved upon that. So you need to fail your fair share in your life to actually do good. I guess that's the thing I feel like.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. There was one more question that I wanted to ask. Since there are a lot of beginners in this meet, what would you suggest them personally if they're struggling with their research process? Because at one point it reaches a burnout, and sometimes they just think about giving up.
Yeah, so personally, what I just do, I just go on a 2 day trip. It helps my brain. Like personally, find your uh, similar thing, like whatever. Like if you want to go out for movies or anything like that, it's not. It should not be like. And I feel research gives you that freedom as well. That if you are totally burnt out, like it's not going to work out. Otherwise, like you need to be and like you whenever you're solving a problem, if you don't use your brain, that is not going to work. So what I feel like is that whenever you get a break, sorry, you get a burnout, please take a break, 1 2 day break. And I feel like if you do that, you will be a better person in whatever work you do, not even in research, in whatever work you do.
Right.
That's it. By the way, how much time this paper took writing all this from scratch, starting?
Can you repeat once?
How much time did this paper took, like from the very ideation phase to the completion phase?
So Raj, should I tell you how the ideation came up?
No, I just gave him the broad idea, like timeline. It took what, 3 months or something, 4 months?
Yeah, 4 months approximately. I think it was done by ACLSRW. No, it was
Yeah,
almost done.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So
after that, it was just polishing and stuff.
yeah,
So remember, most of the time, if you're not very lucky, your paper will spend time in what is called as recycle and resubmit hell. That can go on up to a year. But yeah, the main thing usually takes about 3 to 4 months for a project like Deepan worked on. But then there are some more involved projects like Indic Trans 2 or something that took a fair bit of a year, right from ideation and so on. And it involved the contribution of 100 plus linguists and 10 15 plus technical experts. So yeah, depends on the project, depends on the scale of the work that you do.
Thanks. So I think if there are no questions further, we can wrap up this section. So really thankful to Deepan for answering all those questions and sharing your journey, and for giving us such a clear insight on both your process and your work and your research paper. And it was very motivating to see someone like you who is an undergraduate contribute so much to research and stuff, and drew towards curiosity and make some meaningful contributions for the society itself, considering you are working with low language resources and stuff. So now I will hand back this session to Samyukta to guide us into the rest of the Q&A and the closing session.
Yeah, thank you. Like Siddharth announced, we'll be entering the Q&A segment, although we've been doing that throughout. So if anyone has questions, it would be better if you could unmute yourself and ask it. It'll be more interactive that way. Chat works fine too. So I'll actually start. I have a question of my own with what Dabre sir said at the beginning of his speech. Is that when you shared your code on GitHub and it started gaining traction about like 2,000 hits or so, that's when things really took off. So how can someone design their research process itself so that it's not only publishable but impactful and usable by the community?
See, here's the thing, right? You answered your own question if you look at it. First of all, to know what is impactful is to know what people need the most right now. You have to work on problems that are solving a real problem that people need. Like if you identify what people need, you will find a research problem, you solve that, that is going to have impact. For example, right? Think about what coding agents do. There is a big need for having capabilities to speed up people's coding capabilities. Now If that need didn't exist, that any coding LLM would have zero impact. If that coding LLM were not that good, not that fast, it would have zero impact. So you really need to find out what people need at the moment. And for that, you really need to look at what existing models are, what they can do, what they cannot do, and cannot do, and whether the things that they can and cannot do are things that people really need right now or not. So you really need to understand the market requirement, the people's requirement. Without that, it's very hard to make an impact. You can do some random thing, but if it's not something that somebody doesn't need, you're not going to have impact. It's as straightforward as that.
Are there any specifics that go into it so that you research your process so that you hit the usability of it more? Anything specific?
Can you repeat that again? Maybe rephrase it.
You mentioned that we have to keep the target audience's needs in mind.
Yes, yes.
So, are there any specific steps that we can do?
I mean, okay, so let me give you an example of Indictrans 2, right? For Indictrans 2, our motivation was very simple. There are 22 official Indian languages. Most of these were not being supported by any of the existing machine translation systems. And if they were supported, these were not open source models. These were not models that could handle a variety of languages at a high level of performance. There was not data, no data available for it. So now, understanding that all of these different problems do exist, we realized that because this problem exists, because this limitation exists, we have to go and start collecting data, start doing studies of how you can improve machine translation capabilities and so on. Basically, that is the whole process of identifying what is that gap, what is that limitation. And some things are fairly obvious, like machine translation, no machine translation system existing for multiple languages. That is fairly obvious. But some things are not very obvious. And see, here's the thing: even I cannot tell you what is needed, what is not needed. This is something for you to do. You have to go out, you have to talk to people, you have to do market surveys, and you need to really, this is essentially like a startup, right? Research is pretty startup-y in that sense. It's starting from zero for some of these things. So yeah, I mean, it's really up to you. You have to go and explore.
Anyone, anything else?
Also, so what do you have to say about the shortage of GPUs and stuff, especially in India? And considering we have platforms like Renpod too, but still we are still very much dependent on GPUs and stuff.
Right. So see, unfortunately, this LLM stuff is pretty much a haves versus haves not thing. You can, like, for example, right? I cannot tell you how many billions of parameters there are in Gemini, but you cannot do this kind of a system in open source. It's pretty much impossible. Even companies like Sarvam cannot train such models. It's just that to have that level of impact, you need to have billions and billions of dollars worth of revenue. It's not possible in India at the moment unless our government decides to go and purchase a lot of stuff from Jensen Huang, or we decide to promote our own hardware companies, which is pretty hard in itself. See, that compute limitation thing is a problem, unfortunately. But then this kind of opens up your mind for you to think about things that you can do with low amounts of compute. So, for example, right, one really hot area is model compression and efficiency. So, I mean, anybody is going to train 100 billion parameter model, but in production, when you're launching these models to the public, 100 billion parameter models are too small, too big, and too slow. So one active area of research is how do you compact all of these things into a small amount of memory to have minimal amount of memory footprint, right? And that thing you can only test in low compute scenarios. So that's good, right? So essentially you have these big models which are available, figure out a way to make it work on that tiny GPU or that 2 to 3 GPUs that you have. That's automatically for you. So now it means that if your thing works, you'll know exactly that your idea is good. That's it.
Right. So we have Onslaught doing the same thing currently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abid, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
So, I'm a first semester student at a local college in my state, and I'm also doing the data science from IT Madras. I am really interested in researching about nuclear physics, but the problem for me is that I don't know anything about research, but I want to research about many things. So, my question is, how does research work? Where do I start, and what steps do I take to take my research from an idea to an actual research paper or article which makes a difference?
I think I answered this question earlier in the talk, no? Or I feel like, is this a repeated question? I feel like it's a repeated question. Somebody had already asked, like, what
I
is the
might
typical.
have missed it because my internet connection was not good.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm not going to go into details again,
Yeah,
but see, every research problem starts with identifying a limitation or a gap. You need to first identify that limitation or gap, and then automatically, if your goal is that I want to solve this problem, you will eventually figure out this is the starting point. And usually, one way to solve that gap is collecting data and using a data based solution. You can sometimes solve it with an algorithmic optimization. You can sometimes solve it with a modeling optimization. So it essentially depends on, or one, sometimes it's a problem of evaluation. Things are badly evaluated. So you really need to find the gap, and depending on which way you can fill that gap, you can fill that gap. That is a short gist of it, but maybe you can listen to the talk from the beginning. It's being recorded, and you'll probably
yes,
get more insight into what you're looking for.
okay,
So I think might be notebook element stuff can help a lot when we start
Mhm.
out research. For example, so I had a talk with PK sir too some time ago, and he also suggested that using AI into research is a more beneficial when you start out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, guys, you have no idea how easy it is for you now, right now. I mean, back then I had to write all my code by myself, no coding agents, no nothing. And I had to go through things painfully bit by bit. Now at least you have things to write an entire pipeline. Man, come on. I had to probably code word to vec all by myself. Now you just tell Gemini, can you code word to vec for me? Just produce a beautifully highly optimized GPU enabled pipeline. No need to worry about CPUs also. So that, I mean, yeah, you are in that era. Take advantage of the tools that you have. I wish I could have done. I would have been 10 times faster for sure. Yeah, by the way, I need to leave in another 13 minutes, so I hope that the session is now reaching its conclusion.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yes, yes. Aditi, can you do the closing?
Yeah. Thank you so much to our speakers, Professor Dabre and Mr. Halder, for joining our session and not just sharing their expertise but also their personal insights into their journey of research. And I'd also like to thank our hosts, Akshita, Siddharth, and Samyukta, for steering such engaging conversations, and all of you here for tuning in and contributing with your questions and attention. And if there's one takeaway from today is that research is not just an abstract, distant pursuit. It is a process of curiosity, persistence, and impact. Whether you're just beginning or already on the path, there is always space to learn, to grow, and to contribute. So, on the behalf of Razor, thank you once again for being part of this session. We hope to see you again in our future events. Have a good day, everyone. And signing off, this is Aditi, Deputy Secretary of Razor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, everyone. You
Yeah.
guys can leave. Thank you so much, Mr. Dabre.
Okay.
Aditi, can you stop the recording?